Hi guys, good morning. I thought I would do a birth story for you through our labor and delivery journey now that baby has arrived. So, side note, we were originally scheduled for an induction on Monday, December 2nd at 7:45 a.m. Which was my daughter's birthday, Harper's birthday. And so on Saturday, we made sure to have a birthday party to celebrate her so that she didn't feel the attention was taken away from her birthday. We didn't want her to feel like, oh, mommy and daddy are gone on my birthday, and so we didn't want her to feel left out. So that all happened on Saturday, and everything went well. My husband and I went and ran a few errands afterwards, and my mom stayed with our kids. And then on Sunday morning, I ended up waking up like normal. My husband let me sleep in until about 8, and I went to the bathroom and then went downstairs, and after a few steps I kind of paused because I felt something leak. And I wasn't sure if it was me peeing myself, even though I had just gone, or if it was my water leaking, or if maybe even it was something gross like discharge. So I told my husband I was going to go back upstairs. I wasn't sure what was going on. I changed my underwear, went pee again just to make sure I had emptied my bladder, and after walking around for a few minutes, again, my underwear was wet. So I did this like 2 or 3 times, kind of in disbelief that maybe it was my water breaking, because there was no huge gush, just a little bit of like trickling. So I went ahead, and my husband had planned to do my mom's oil change, and I asked him to go ahead and do that still, and he was like, are you kidding me? But I knew that no matter what, I wasn't having contractions, so we had time. So he went ahead and did that. I went ahead and showered. My mom watched the kids because she had spent the night at our house, and thankfully, and so I showered and everything, and then afterwards I went ahead and called my doctor's office. So that was about 9:30 that I called my OB's office, and unfortunately I was reminded that my OB was not on call that day. He had told me that he was going to be working for Thanksgiving and Black Friday, but he would be off Saturday and Sunday for the weekend, and then he'd be back on Monday for our induction. So that was a bit of a bummer, knowing that my OB was not going to be there for my labor and delivery. After I spoke with the on-call doctor, I went ahead and called the parents. So I FaceTimed them. They had been FaceTiming their other children at the time, and so they knew when I was FaceTiming them that it was unusual and that something must be going on with baby and that it might be time. So they answered very excited. Maria was still in her pajamas, and I said, don't worry, we have plenty of time. So after about an hour and a half, we arrived to them, and we feel like somebody's at my door. We arrived to them. They seemed very surprised because I was not having like consistent contractions or anything yet, nothing painful. Hopped out of the car, greeted them, hugged them. I think they were in disbelief that it was finally time. And then we all headed off to the hospital. So they're about like a 10-minute ride to the hospital, if that, and that's just with traffic. So we got here to the hospital around 11:30 a.m. and around noontime they checked me, and I was 4 centimeters dilated. Previously, on Wednesday, the day before our the day prior to Thanksgiving, my OB had checked me, and I was 3 centimeters dilated. So I thought, okay, 1 centimeter of progression, great. And around 2 p.m. I still had not had any consistent contractions, so we agreed upon starting Pitocin. I was fine with it because I had had Pitocin with all of my children and knew what it was going to be like and had planned for an induction the next day anyways, so having Pitocin didn't bother me. We started off at a 2, and we increased the units by 2 every half an hour until we could get the contractions consistent. Sadly, they were not consistent at all, even after doing it for quite a long time. Around 4 p.m., the resident doctor came in to visit, and as I had stood up from the birthing ball, there was a huge gush of fluid dripping down my legs, all over the floor. I mean, like puddles, hearing splashing. Me, my husband, and the parents were laughing hysterically, and the doctor just kind of stood there, continuing her conversation, not fazed at all. I asked for a towel, she didn't get it, and so of course all of us are just looking at each other like, what is going on, laughing hysterically. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of fluid. So my body, obviously, now that it's fully ruptured, things will probably pick up. Wrong. So I continued to labor with contraction getting more consistent, but just not really like strong. I was sitting on the birthing ball all day until about 9 p.m. And even then, the contractions were every 3 to 4 minutes, but I wasn't even having to like deep breathe through them. I didn't need to put like my earbuds in my ears to like drown out noise or anything. Like, I was handling them really, really well. I didn't feel that I was resisting the contractions at all. So at 9 p.m. when we were completely maxed out on the Pitocin, they went ahead and checked me and said that I was still at 4 centimeters dilated. It was a complete disappointment, to be honest. And even Maria looked at me and said, you look really, really disappointed that you're only at a 4 still. And I said, I am. So we decided that I would get an epidural because they were becoming more intense, but maybe it would help me relax, fall asleep for a couple of hours, and see how things went. So our nurse went ahead and paged anesthesiology, and as I was getting ready to sit up on the side of the bed, Maria and Mattias had already left the room because you could only have one person in there because of the sterile field and everything. So they decided that my husband would stay with me for that, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted him to be in there with me for it to support me in case I was overwhelmed or anything. And right as I was about to sit up, the door opened and in peeked my OB, and I saw his face and I honestly just started crying. And I don't know if it was just because I was overwhelmed with no progression or relieved to see his face or what it was, but I just started sobbing when I saw him. He's so fantastic, and just knowing he was there made my heart so happy and just made me feel that much more comfortable. So he said he would come back after my epidural was placed and we would chat from there. So the epidural was placed around 9:45 p.m. And he came in. The parents were allowed back into the room. Maria and Mattias came back in, and I said, I'm really disappointed that I'm only at a 4. And he said, okay, well, let's go ahead and check you. And he checked me and said he would say that I was 5 centimeters, not 4. And then he asked the nurse, Brooke, for an amniotic hook, which I was surprised by because I had already had that big gush on the floor and I'd been leaking all day. And then he said, never mind. And at that moment, a flood of fluid came out of me. And every time it flooded, I would laugh hysterically, and so my stomach would contract and it literally would like gush my fluid at him. Everybody in the room was laughing hysterically. The nurse was trying to block it from like splashing all over him, and I couldn't stop the laughter. Honestly, it was something like out of a movie of what was happening, of just these like waves of amniotic fluid getting him. And so afterwards he stood up and said, okay, you got my sweater, you got my scrub pants, and apparently you got my pager. His pager was broken. It was not working. I apparently had fried it, I guess, a little bit with the fluid. After a few minutes, he managed to get it working by like turning it off and everything, but we were pretty sure I had broken his pager. So that was quite the fun, interesting part of the journey. Around 10:30 p.m. he checked me again and I was 6 centimeters. Around 11:30 he checked me again and I was 7 centimeters, 80% effaced, and baby was at a -1 station. And he said to call if I felt any major changes of pressure. So around 12:10 a.m. It was now Harper's birthday, so we thought, okay, baby was just waiting to be able to join us on Harper's birthday so that they could share. And around 12:10 I felt a lot of pressure, like I just said, and my doctor checked me and said, okay, baby's on the doorstep. And our nurse Brooke said, okay, does that mean a 9, 9.5? And he said, nope, she's fully dilated and ready to go. So another nurse joined us, and the resident doctor came in, and we were getting set up and ready to push. So at 12:27 a.m. on December 2nd, I started to push, and it took only about 4 or 5 contractions, and 7 minutes later at 12:33, a perfect baby boy that was 7 pounds 8 ounces 20.8 inches long was delivered. His mom actually was the one that was able to reach down and pull him to her chest. Our doctor had stepped aside and moved the resident doctor aside so that she was able to pull the baby out herself. Dad was looking on right over her shoulder in complete mesmerization. My husband was there and fantastic. I think my husband probably cried more than anybody, and I don't know if it was his amazement of seeing that baby born or if it was watching me, because every time he looked at me, he was just grinning ear to ear, which I completely appreciated. And then what happened at that point? He had been delivered and everything. Baby had a lot of bruising across his forehead, and it was because when he was being delivered, he turned his head very quickly and bruised up like his entire face. So when he came out, there was a little bit of concern of whether he wasn't pinking up or not. And so the nurse, moved him into different lighting and realized that he was just severely bruised and that his APGAR scores were great. He was doing fantastic. He pinked up immediately. He cried the second that he was delivered and everything. And so that was really good. I unfortunately had a lot of bleeding, and I didn't realize quite how much, but they ended up giving me 2 different injections in my legs. And shortly after getting those, I felt extremely, extremely nauseous to the point where they gave me a bag and I ended up vomiting. So I ended up getting some Zofran because of how sick I was feeling. I just felt really lightheaded. And they tested my blood sugar, and that was low for me as well. That was at 73, which usually with the gestational diabetes, I was feeling pretty gross whenever I'd get that low. So we knew that we needed to get some sugar into me. We tried like a glucose gel and I just couldn't handle it. It was the texture or taste, I don't know, it was lemon, but it was disgusting, and I knew I was gonna puke again if I had that. So we think maybe I'd also drank just a little bit too much water, because after I delivered him, I chugged half of one of the big like containers that they give you in the hospital because I was so parched. But the parents were with baby. He was doing perfectly well, and they ended up being able to get up to a room in the mother and baby unit before I could. That was the only one available at the time, and they asked if we minded staying downstairs, my husband and I, for a little while, which we said not at all. And so about 2 hours later, we ended up going upstairs. We had slept for about an hour downstairs, and then they brought us up here. Everybody here has been absolutely amazing to us. The nurse that was with me for delivery, Brooke, was incredible, and my OB is a saint. He made the journey and the delivery as memorable as it could have been. For Maria to be able to pull her baby out and pull him straight to her chest was incredible, and being able to witness that moment of seeing somebody become a parent for the first time was the most beautiful thing. I swear, it's exactly why I did this, and it was everything I imagined it would be. And now sweet little baby is here, and he is doing so well. His bruising has already gone down so much. He looks so good now. I just went down and saw him a little while ago in one of the newborn pajamas they got him. He's so long that he barely fits in them, but he looks so cute in them. And I'm doing really well. I'm having minimal bleeding. I did not tear or anything from the delivery, even though he came very quickly. I'm very thankful for that. I have been pumping since he was delivered. For the first few hours, I did not feel good, obviously, but I've been pumping since, and I think my milk is starting to come in because I'm starting to feel that tingling like you would if you were having a letdown. So that's a great thing that's going on. And my stomach has gone down significantly. I know some people would be like disgusted at how I look already because my stomach is very small, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But I also am worried that when people see me, they're gonna think like I feel great and everything, which I do, but I still delivered a baby 2 days ago. So I think when I'm not walking around with a newborn, people aren't going to have that same understanding of like, oh, she just delivered a baby. It's like, oh, well, she had a baby and now she doesn't have a newborn to take care of. Well, I still have a lot that my body is going through for all of these changes. So hopefully people understand that, and that I'm going to take some time to get back to myself and still need a lot of rest and everything. I'm still quite tired, especially having been in labor for about 16 and a half hours. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess the final thing is his name. So his first name is Ebbe, and it's E-B-B-E, and his middle name is Carl. So they dropped the L off of our last name, and Carl is a very popular name in Sweden, C-A-R-L, and that is what they have chosen to give him as a middle name, and to also kind of pay tribute to our family, which is incredible. They told us over the summer that they may be placing that as part of his name, and I couldn't believe it. And so that is his middle name, and we could not be more honored for him to share our name after this beautiful journey. We are now at the end of this part of the journey, but I'm so excited for our journey to honestly continue from here, because they are people that we will have in our lives forever. They are amazing. It's so nice to see how in love they are with their little baby. And yeah, they're over the moon happy, and being able to be a part of it, and such a big part of it obviously was incredible. But now just to see where they're gonna go from here is something I'm looking forward to so much. So I will hopefully in the next couple days start piecing together the footage from the labor and delivery so that you guys can kind of see some of that. But I hope you enjoyed our birth story. And if you guys have any questions, please drop them below. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And yeah, thank you so much for following along on our journey. We have appreciated everybody's love and support, and now everybody congratulating them on this sweet baby boy that has been welcomed to the world. Everybody's just been wonderful with sharing the joy and everything, and their family back home cannot wait to meet him, and understandably so, especially his siblings. So we will talk to you guys soon. Bye.